This is Kitten Features, and you're listening to Show X Live with Ken in a student accommodation all the way in Scotland, and Wayne in his white windowless van? Uh-oh, I better get out of here. Enjoy the show!
Hey everybody, and welcome to Show X on VTWProductions.com. You're listening live at 2 p.m. Eastern, well, 2:01 p.m. Eastern, and what is it? 7:02 Eastern now, GMT, this Sunday, October 14th, 2018. Welcome to the show, everybody, and welcome to see you, Ken. We're going to jump right into things with a bit of
functional deviations.
Ken, how are you doing this week? What have you been up to, sir?
Hey, I'm good. I've been up to a few things. So this week was my birthday on Friday there.
Happy birthday, sir. Actually, let me do that right. I have to do the appropriate means that everyone's waiting for. What? You know how this goes.
I do.
Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you. So, happy birthday, Ken.
I feel very special you didn't do it for everybody on the show. Jeez. No, I'm kidding.
Hey, I looked right into the camera at your virtual eyes for that one.
I know. It felt like I was looking right into my soul, actually. Thank you very much for that, sir. You're very kind. I think. So, it was my birthday on Friday. So I took Thursday and Friday off, kind of. In the sense that I at least worked from home on Thursday. And Friday we had just a super lazy day. We just sat around and did nothing really, and that was really nice. It was really nice to just do nothing on my birthday. I work more or less 3 jobs right now, and so having time to a whole day of doing nothing was just very, very sweet. It was very nice. So I just sat and played games. I hung out with people. And watched some films, some TV shows, and that was good. I'll mention some more of the geekery that I actually did during the Geek Cred section, though. That was most of what's happened there. I suppose my birthday stuff probably comes under geekery as well because of what I got, but I'll just put it in here so that this section can be padded out a little bit more than anything. So lie down, puppy. So sorry, my dog is just staring at me like. You can see him. He's just
sitting back there like,
I don't know what he's doing. He's being awkward.
Look at me. I want to be on the show today. Hey, everybody.
Yeah, no. You're a good boy. You can see him falling in love over there. So I'll tell you some of the things I got. Let's see. So the first thing, which it's going to be hard to show actually because the camera's actually placed on this thing.
Okay.
I'm not going to touch it because that's a microphone as well. So let's not do that. Because that may be bad. So Ken got me this really, really nice framed music sheet for Concerning Hobbits, which, as you know, was one of the songs they played during our wedding.
Yes.
So she got the first page of that song, the piano part actually. That I look at it's got both the bass side and the G sharp side.
Oh, nice.
And it's the original piece by Howard Shore, arranged by Dan Coates. However, it's got this like overlay of the Fellowship themselves over the picture of the music. So it's this really nice blend between the two of musical sheet and the characters from the film, and a little bit of a backdrop of I don't actually know where that is in Lord of the Rings, but an area in there. So it's quite a meaningful piece because that's kind of our song. So that was really sweet of her.
Nice.
I really like that. It's the only thing that I have on my desk that decorates my desk now, and that's nice. I also received, I don't have it with me, but a little crystal ball, like Pam shaped, but this size.
Okay.
It's for photography, so it's like.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I've been seeing it. It's designed to be super clear and reflective optically, so that you can actually shoot through it to do things like turn upside down the world to get these cool kind of distorted effects through it, where it's like crystal clear but being totally spherical in the way that it shines through. Yeah, I've seen it advertised on a few things, and it seems like a really cool device. If I were more creative, I might have wanted to get one or do something with it, but I've never seen it anywhere. So, or I saw it and I was like, cool.
Well, you can get on Amazon, and it's not just. It also has a sort of bending of light effect, you know, because it's a sphere after all, so it makes everything look spherical and kind of rounded. And so it's quite an interesting effect to have. And you know, I find one of the problems with my photography is I really enjoy taking photos at different places.
Well, and admittedly, these are far cheaper than I thought.
Oh yeah, they're pretty cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, it's less than like £15 US or $15, and so.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh no,
that's the price you want to get, of course.
Yeah, no, understandably, but just the basic ones. That's actually pretty cool. I thought when I had first seen them advertise it, they'd be this ridiculously expensive thing.
Some of them are. Some of them are insanely expensive, but you can definitely get some that are super cheap. So don't panic. If you're interested, you can definitely go purchase one. And I've not played with it yet, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I've been trying to carefully handle it because at first I was like, "Oh, this is cool," and I was like, "What am I doing? I'm covering it in fingerprints." So I'm now trying to handle it only with the bag that came in. So it's a cool little thing. It's a bit of fun, and it'll hopefully be a present that encourages me to do some more photography. So that was a gift kind of given by my parents. They also gave me. I've not actually received it yet. It hasn't arrived in the mail yet. But they've actually purchased me a new camera lens to be very kind.
Oh, very nice.
So it's I believe it was 50 mil to 280 millimeter, I think it was. So a medium zoom lens, I would say, which is good because I only have my kit lens and 35 millimeter 1.4 aperture lens. So I don't have anything that can zoom in really at all. So this is one of the things on my wish list. So that was very kind of them to look through that and choose that.
Is it actual like Canon lens or is it?
Yeah, so a real I think well from what they showed me, I think it was a Canon lens. Yeah. So they got that actually from China, which is why it's taking a while. They could have got Amazon, but they said it was worth about 50% more just getting it straight from Amazon.
Okay.
They found like some off retailer that sells something.
I lenses I will buy used. I will buy name it because as long as the glass is clean, it is good to use. You said it was what, a 50 to.
Yeah. Well, it was the 50 to 250 or 50.
Oh, okay. So
I can't remember anymore.
Yeah, but basically to a 250 lens. So one of the ones that gives you a lot of telephoto. So it's usually like
you're relying again from me, sir. It's 5 millimeter to 280.
Yeah, 55 to 250 is one of their standard ones.
That's it. Yeah, 55 to 250. Okay, makes more sense. So yeah, they got it for I think they said something like 90 pounds, which is pretty good.
That's basically half price.
Yeah. However, of course, has to be shipped from across the world then. But that's okay. That's totally worth it. And so I'm very, very excited to get that. So that, along with the crystal ball, means that I should be getting more into photography in the future, or at least I'll have more of a thorn in my side about it, because I'll continually tell myself, do it, do your photography, do it. You've got stuff for it. You got to play with it. So hopefully it'll kick me in the butt to go do some more stuff.
Nice.
I received very kindly from a certain member of VTW a new game, which was very kind. Now, this was a particularly well thought out game because it's one that's a play together game. In fact, it's even in the name. Don't starve together, and that's nice because it means that we could hopefully all play that together at some point, and so that'll be exciting. And that person, of course, is Mr. Wayne. So thank you very much for that, sir.
Hey, there's a reason that wish lists should always be populated, both on Amazon and on Steam. It allows those random gifts.
Yeah, it means that you don't just go buy stuff and you don't have to think too crazy hard about it, and it means you're going to get something that they like, you know. And the last gift that I want to mention today was actually from my parents as well. It was they got me the World of Warcraft cookbook.
Oh.
Yeah, so I looked through it. It's a beautiful book, actually. Really gorgeous images throughout. It's got lots of great references to a variety of different World of Warcraft things and areas and foods and such. There's a lot of Pandaria cuisine, which is good because it's basically Oriental cuisine, right? And that's good because who doesn't love like tasty ramen and stuff. All the dishes, like they seem to be doing it to make them not easy, not like a quick put something together type thing. But it's also not overloaded with, oh, you need 17 fine herbs and spices that can only be found in Mexico. You know, that's the other hard thing that often happens. But it seems to be a nice middle ground, so that it's like quite a not necessarily easy, but not a hard recipe either, and it's not got insane ingredients. So I'm going to try some of those. One that really stuck out for me were the honey bread. The idea of it is basically you make like a loaf of bread that's made with honey and other sweet things like oats and such. But you make it in the shape of a beehive.
Okay.
So it looks cool as well. So I'm pretty excited to do that. And like I said, they seem to be making a good quality food, like not something that you'd make on every single night, but like a nice one-off type meals. And that includes like the soups. So when I think of a soup, I think of like pure liquid, maybe a couple bits of carrot or something, and that's it. But they had like
You mean a
chicken...
broth?
Well, yeah, very much. But we wouldn't call that a broth though. In Scotland, the broth would be more very, very chunky, lots of stuff in it. Yeah, but it would be generally. If you had a Scots broth, you'd have like beef and carrots and turnip and stuff like that, and big cubes of that stuff really. So what we would call soup is probably more the thinner stuff. But again, that's probably just us reversing what everybody else says.
That's how we do it. We do broth is usually what I would help, like a flavored liquid that I would put along with meats and stuff to help them cook up with more flavor. Whereas soup for me can be as complex as all things you find from my chili soups I make that have all the way from potatoes and corn and vegetables throughout, along with meat and chilies and such. And so, yeah, that's interesting to see the difference or hear the difference between.
If you look at the chat,
massively not short and link you put.
Yeah. If you click on that, you'll see that's Scotch broth, right? Scotch broth has got lots of stuff in it, right?
Interesting.
So, lentils and beans and peas and carrots and turnips and usually beef or lamb or something like that. It's
just
lovely, right?
Yeah, it's soup. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, we would call that. Anyway, so the ones that they make is this chicken soup, right? This chicken broth, and it's not only just like this beautiful looking liquid with bits in it, but there's also like a whole chicken leg hanging out the side of it, and it just looks so good. Like that's the way it should be, right? If you're gonna have chicken soup, you'd have a giant bit of chicken. I love the idea. So that was cool. There's a bunch of stuff in there I want to try. Admittedly, the only thing that's a bit of a downside about it is that it's a lot of US measurements and US ingredients. So, for example, all-purpose flour doesn't really exist in the UK. My mum was telling me.
Wait, is all your flour just very purposeful? It's only for one thing at a time?
We have plain flour or self-raising flour or specific flours, and that's about it. I didn't even know that. I don't know. I don't bake enough to know which was right and which was wrong. But yeah, generally speaking, here in the UK, we don't have all-purpose flour. That just doesn't exist. So I need to find out what that means in the UK world and how to find a version of that. So that's my next plan. So there's a lot of interesting stuff in there that I want to try out. It's going to be a lot of fun, and a lot of it. It's going to be a very tasty adventure. A lot of it's kind of Christmassy as well. The first few recipes in the book are like different spices you can get in the game. So, for example, northern spices, winter's veil spices, that kind of thing. The reason for that is that they're used in the other recipes, but they're basically like a mix of different spices put together for specific purposes. So I'll need to make like 5 jars, fill them with these different spice types, I guess, so that I can then make the other stuff. That's kind of fun, It means I've got these set spices ready to go, like winter veil spices. That just sounds so tasty and delicious.
Well, I mean, cooking is
holiday spices, whatever it's called.
Yeah, cooking is just alchemy for your mouth. Potion making and such.
Yes, it is. And at the very start, I had this cool little part where it said, they follow this sort of Pandaria scheme for cooking, where it says, each section is called way of the whatever, like way of the broth, way of the drink, or way of the tankard, sorry, way of the meat. So you can find the different sections as well. And at the very start of the book, it says, to level up your cooking skill, we recommend you do you should try and aim to do 5 recipes from each way, and there's different levels. So like apprentice up to master for each thing. So start off with a couple of apprentice ones in each, then move up to the medium levels, then go to like the grandmaster levels, which I thought was pretty cool because it's like its own little challenge, and it plays into the game a little bit. It's very World of Warcraft to have you level up your professions.
Nice.
It's pretty fun. So I'll be sure to update you guys if I actually do cook anything from it. I certainly hope I do. Just looking through the book made me happy because it's got such beautiful imagery and stuff in it that it's just really nice to look through.
Very cool. And the nice things, I'm grabbing links for all the stuff you'd posted that I'll put in the show notes through my Amazon, the Amazon Associates or Affiliates account. So if anybody hears any of the things that Ken's talking about, is interested to buy some themselves, you can use our link because that helps us end the show. But cool. So you'll have links to everything Ken received if you are interested in having them for yourself.
Cool. And the last thing I got was Kitten gave me some. She was like, go buy yourself a game. So I did. And that was really kind of her. So I purchased myself a video game. And it's Alien Isolation. So that's going to be my go-to Halloween game this year. It seems that I'm going to be traveling over Halloween, though, or at least very early the morning after. So my Halloween can't be particularly crazy.
Well, I mean, it's also during the middle of the week this year, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, so I'm traveling down to London either Hallows Eve or the very early morning after 4 a.m. or so.
Oh, I would totally go like the day before to kind of walk the streets of London in the middle of Halloween. That'd be amazing.
That's tempting, but I also don't want to leave Kitten alone on Halloween because I know she'll get all scared. Because she's quite superstitious. Even though I'm the opposite.
Is she?
I still want to be there to support her.
Is she ever able to come travel with you on the work trips?
Only if we find a place to have both the dogs looked after and the 3 chinchillas.
Fair. God, you just need to have a mate locally that can come check in on everyone each day.
We do, but we already ask them like for favors once in a while. But it's difficult to do that very frequently, right? Like I can't say every other week, hey, can you just take your weekend off? Like take your weekend and stay at our house, but still go to work as you need to, but now travel 5 times the distance to get there. Like they kindly do that sort of thing for free. They don't expect payment or anything. That also means that we don't feel like we can ask very often unless it's like a big thing. For example, when we go to Vegas or stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Well, no, still good to know. But I was just wondering because that would be a fun adventure. But anyhow, you continue.
It would be. Yeah, I think that's everything for my birthday.
Nice.
Some of my friends from work have very kindly offered to take me out for lunch next week, since I wasn't in for my birthday itself. And so I'll be doing that next week. Went out for dinner today with my parents, and we went to an Italian place, and it was ridiculously delicious. So I ate so much food that I'm skipping dinner tonight.
Oh wow!
So, yeah, I'm still really full. It was
actually
amazing.
I shouldn't be surprised. I keep having to remind myself that your portion sizes in the UK are significantly different than ours, and so normally you guys have to eat like 5 times a day, but if you eat like an American, you'd only have to eat like once or twice.
That's probably true. Yeah, we didn't finish all our dessert because we just kept getting platters of like try the different things because it was such a nice place. We wanted to try as much as we could, and it was just delicious. It was really, really nice. So I'll be going back there as well. So I had a nice birthday. It was good fun, and I got to do no work, which is always good. But back to the real world tomorrow.
Yeah, that's my every weekend. Are you kidding?
Yeah,
it's always like
right.
The show is my last vestige of like it's the weekend. Mm-hmm. Oh wait, that means tomorrow I have to go back to work.
Yeah, it's the sad end to it. But that's everything from me, sir. So please tell me, what have you been up to?
Oh, let's see. What have I been doing? So, all right, other celebrations of birthdays and things this weekend. So, not in any particular order, but let's see. Well, we'll start out with the boring first, and we'll go reverse order to get into what's cooler. So, starting with that, I will say that I have been consuming media, and my most recent, the anime I've been watching, has finally been catching up on My Hero Academia, which has been hugely popular amongst the anime crowd lately, and I can understand why. It's a fighting anime, basically, where everyone in the world, or what is it? I think the official number is like 80 or 85% or something of the people in the world all have what they call quirks, which is a certain specific skill or something that manifests itself. And so they have everything and the quirks are a wide variety, from someone who can make portals to teleport people to people who are just very strong, someone who consumes a lot of sugar and is able to turn that into a lot of strength and speed. Just all kinds of individual ones. Someone who can create fire and ice. Someone who makes explosive. Basically, his sweat is nitroglycerin-like, and so it explodes at will. All these kind of cool little things. But it follows the story of a main character, Deku, who is born without a quirk and goes through his experiences as being essentially an otaku or a fanboy of heroes throughout the world without one, wanting to manifest a quirk himself but doesn't get to, and through events in the world ends up being able to acquire a quirk, which is kind of unheard of. And as he goes through this academy for helping kids with quirks see where they sit in the realm of hero class, whether they can become a professional hero or a sidekick or a support character or something like that, or if they're going to basically be a regular civilian that just happens to have a minor quirk. Anyhow, it's up to
That's very interesting. I love the idea.
Yeah, no, it's fun. Most people I know are hugely into it. I actually this weekend talked to a couple of people yesterday who, some people at the table were into it. Some others are kind of like, I don't know. It has some feelings-ish like a Naruto, but I will say without the filler, in that it has the same kind of things I enjoy, where the main character is Deku and is mostly focused on, but all of the other characters in the universe are very well documented and experienced, and so you actually hear their stories. They have their own development, their own personalities, and so it makes it a very well-rounded, solid show in my opinion. So I've binged it somewhat over the last, I started watching it just before Dragon Con, so I've had like a month and a half, 2 months on it. And I'm currently on episode 56, which is essentially the third season of it, towards the end of it. And so I've been making some progress. The first season's only like 13 episodes. The second one's similar, a little longer, and so the third one's kind of been this pretty in-depth one. But I've been watching that, enjoying it a lot. I'm using it as an opportunity to maybe look for some future cosplays and things like that, so we'll see. But that's the anime I've been watching most recently. I'm also finishing up, for the most part, on Supernatural. I say finishing up, I've kept it on the... It's the challenge I have, like always, where My Hero Academia is... I've gotten past what was dubbed. The dub only goes partway into, I think, the second season so far. And it's one of those anime that I will say the dub, I think, is quite good. So if you do like dub, I think they did a solid job. The voice actors are doing a wonderful job with it. The sub, though, goes all the way out through the seasons that are available. So I watched as much as I could dubbed, and then I had to switch over to Crunchyroll and start watching the sub versions to keep going with story. Both are great.
That must be a difficult change to go to.
And not really. It's one of those that, and I have people I know, friends I know, that are very particular in how they consume their anime, where they want... I have the friends who are totally fine with dubbed and will consume as often as possible, to the people who only will watch sub because they want to hear the original Japanese. And what's interesting is I can see the reason for that, and there are anime that absolutely do better in one versus the other. I think Naruto is far better in the Japanese original because the voices aren't as grating. Having Naruto constantly say "believe it" or whatever can get very annoying in the English dub. And then there's other ones I think stand very well, where I think the voice acting's amazing either direction. And I've even run into one or two where the Japanese voices were grating to me, like either too high-pitched or whiny. One of the ones for me is Dragon Ball.
Oh yeah, I can see why as well. I wouldn't say it's because the voices in Japanese themselves. It's the voice they put on, right? Like they're intentionally making it like super high pitched.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's the character, yeah. It's however they're delivering that character. So Goku, Kakarot in Dragon Ball Z, specifically to me in Japanese, is so annoying and high pitched compared to what I'm used to hearing in the English dub. And so there's some like that are just kind of take it or leave it, your choice. But I've been enjoying it. The challenge I have is when I'm doing other things, multitasking, and I've had people comment lately to me that I do far too much. But when I'm going back and forth, I can keep something that's in English, be it dubbed or original series, in the background, and so I appreciate that. And so I'll have Supernatural going on my other screen because a lot of it's... I don't need to watch what's happening. I can hear the story. And know what's going on with the characters, and every once in a while look over for an action scene or something like that, versus with My Hero right now, I'm having to focus on it so I can get the dialogue. And so I've been actually watching My Hero either on my phone when I'm going to bed because I'm between books right now, or up on my television where I'll sit down in the living room, grab something, and just sit down and watch. Where while I'm sitting here trying to go through photos and edit and do other things, I'll keep Supernatural up, which I'm about to catch up with, so it'll be interesting to see what I grab next. So anyhow.
That's my Star Trek. Star Trek's my background watching.
Right, I think everyone should have something like that, because heaven forbid, if I'm ever going to keep up with all the hobbies and things I have going on, I need to keep doing these things, and let alone if I'm also going to consume media, I have to stack them. So that's my life. Beyond that, though, so that's what I've been consuming media-wise recently. Like I said, I had finished the last Jim Butcher book, Skin Games. I need to go order the, what are they? They're kind of, I don't know what they're called officially, but side books, the ones that are not focused on the main storyline.
Yeah.
So there's Side Jobs, I believe, and there's one other one. There's two of them that I missed because they weren't in the original order of, like, here are the stories. And so I need to go back and acquire those and then rip through those real quick so I can have read all the Dresden books, and maybe I can start either the other series, the future series, or many of these other books that have been recommended for some time now that are on my backlist.
Well, if you're a Jim Butcher mid, Codex Alera.
That's
good.
the other one, yeah. And after you've told me this, after you've told me the story about it, I'm more interested to check it out. So I need to see that. Oh God, Happy Dude, don't listen to those people. They're wrong. Holy cow. So as we're talking about anime on there, and Serathis, you too. So Naruto is fine. I enjoyed Naruto. I powered through the original to get to Shippuden, which I think was better. Now I have refused to start Boruto because I was at another one of those cases where it's like, all right, I got through the story. I'm good. Let me stop now. I don't want to continue. And then they started Boruto like right when I finished Shippuden. I was like, ugh, I'm done with Naruto for a while. I'm going elsewhere. Same reason I never finished Bleach. Same reason I've never even started One Piece. Too many damn episodes. So don't. But I actually really appreciated Naruto.
Just for the sake of producing episodes to get money, right? Like, it's not like.
Maybe if there's some guys out there where in the original Naruto there are some definite filler episodes that you could just skip. In Shippuden they didn't have as many. There were a few, but at least the filler episodes were actual side stories or backstories for the most part that could have been condensed maybe down to one episode instead of like 4 or 5, but weren't nearly as bad as the original Naruto. So that one's not so bad. When you bring up Sword Art Online, I actually really enjoy Sword Art. Now I've only seen the first 2 seasons, or seasons 1, 1.5, and 2. And I will tell you that I suffered through gun art a little bit the first 4 or 5 times I tried watching it, but I realized I'd only ever watched the first episode multiple times. I really like Sword Art Online. Everyone will complain. It's been done before. It's the same story that originally came through, was it Digimon, essentially? Or what are the other back anime? Not Digimon. There's another one that basically did the whole I'm stuck in a game concept way before Sword Art. But if you haven't seen those, Sword Art's, I think, a solid one. And by the end of season 2, it does things in a feels way that I did not expect, caught me off guard, I thought was amazing. So don't tell me Sword Art's not good.
That's the thing. It doesn't need to be a unique idea. It needs to be done better than it has been done before, right? Like, that's pretty much what Apple does. That's their thing.
I actually have things I should talk about Apple too, but that'll be news. And actually, yes, Happy Dude, which you're correct. Thank you. It's .hack was the one that actually did the original Stuck in the Game. So that's the other one. Okay, now I have my own things. Yuri on Ice. I will not watch that nonsense. It's just like watching Free or any of those other ones. I don't need to see a bunch of overly drawn, half-naked little pretty boys that basically the whole community ships together as a bunch of yaoi everywhere. That's not my thing, and so I have no desire to watch those. Yeah, well, I mean, hey, I understand there's a community that supports and really enjoys boy-on-boy action. I'm not one of them, and I don't have to support it with my eyeballs. So I can accept that it's out there and that people love it, and I'm not going to deny them having that. I don't want it.
Well, it depends. Is it boy or is it man? It sounds like boy.
Well, okay, everything anime is probably high school to early college era for the main characters. So not boy in the sense of like young, underage, although there's stuff I'm sure out there, but in the sense that they tend to be that college age or high school to college age is the focus of most Japanese anime. I've talked about it before. It's because of the culture, because that is when in Japanese culture most people feel like they have the most freedom to explore and do new wild things, because after that when they get into the real world and they've graduated from those things, they're stuck basically in their work life for the rest of their life. And so they feel like their only real time to be creative and outgoing is during that kind of high school to college era time frame. And so that's why they focus most of that on their anime, because those are those characters make sense to their culture to be able to do those things. It would be odd in their culture for adults to be doing a lot of the things that anime characters do. So that's... And yes, one of the things that Copy brings up as we're talking anime right now is in almost all cases, you can watch the abridged versions of these long series and probably have much more fun doing so. Did you ever watch Dragon Ball Abridged?
Yeah, I watched, when I first came out, I watched like the first 10 episodes, but then they're taking forever to
Yeah, they go in.
I've not seen it for years.
But at least you understand it, you know the joy of it, because it can be truly... They take things and they give you the heart of what's happening in a series and reduce the time frame of it significantly, voice acted themselves, and essentially make it ridiculously silly. And that trend has continued on to most anime series that are out there. So you can find abridged versions of many. They're called different things off. So as Copies bringing up said, I watched 50% Off, which is the free abridged version, which is hilarious, that they talk about that distance. And that's probably the way to consume any of these long series, or some of the series you don't want to. And what's funny is, well, okay, so Happy Dude, Cupcheck, when you're saying like Ouran High School, actually I really do love Ouran High School, although the fandom messes that one up, but it's actually really good. So, all right, cool. Ha! What keeps... Oh, never mind. Ha! I was misreading your quote, Happy Dude, about why does he keep kicking me in the... Gotcha.
Something.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Sure, yeah. I thought he was being kicked from chat. I was like, you haven't done anything in chat to get kicked. So anyway, sorry about that. All right. So, but yeah, so I have been finishing up those series. That's what I've been watching lately. So that's been fun. Off of that, as I was continuing talking about a little bit of my week, I've been working on my basement. And I say workshop as a particular piece is that I am trying to, as I've been down here, not just sitting down here being lazy about not moving my computer upstairs, but also, let's see, it's with the other pieces, I'm trying to set up a corner of the basement that is specifically set for working on things outside of, like the middle area I tend to change out for Game Fest and for sewing projects, things like that. But in the back, I've got my 3D printer set up. And I've also been kind of bouncing around areas in the basement for me to set up my soldering station where I've been kind of doing electrical work. And so I've actually kind of moved things around, so I've got a center space now between my printers that I've specifically set up to start doing projects where I'm actually doing electronics or creating things more in that kind of workshop thing. Cool. And I was at Wally World, in a big box store, and they had a deal, and I kind of wish I'd found this before I bought a bunch of fixtures that I thought I was going to redo that I think are actually garbage because they're not powered enough. Who knows? Maybe that'll be another electrical project I do. But they have LED shop lights that are back there now that were only like $20 each, but they have 2 LED strips in them that are daylight oriented and are ridiculously bright. And so I set those up over the area and I put them on a remote. I'm actually really happy. Now, admittedly, this was an idea that kind of came up from my previous roommates as they had done, but they sell the cool outlet remotes. And so I now can turn them on and off just from my remote. That's back cool. There, which is really nice because now I get the spotlight down over the area so I have a good soldering station and stuff. Same with my other lights in here that I can just, the main overhead lights. So I've got that. I need to Velcro it up outside the basement so I have a place to click them on and off. But anyhow, so I've been setting up workshops and kind of trying to organize the basement a little more functionally. As I've also realized I was looking around down here that I have projects for days down here. I have my server backup set up that I want to build a 100 terabyte storage array server. I've got my big screen TV ripped apart back there because I want to add some fans to it to keep it cool because it'll overheat and shut off. So I've got the back panel ripped out of it. I've got all the sewing projects for things I need to do with those. I've got the project where I need to...
You're like a man who needs a plan. You've got a lot of ambition, a lot of projects going, but you need to work out how you're going to do them, what needs done.
Prioritization. Yeah, I have an issue with prioritization. Yeah. I have a list that keeps growing of things I want to accomplish, and I've been somewhat disciplined over time. Well, no, it's how I get through it. I've also been somewhat... I'm good that I have a list, although I need to maintain it. I'm bad because I've actually been good in some cases because I do say no to some projects. Sometimes. Although you should see my Amazon cart right now. I keep adding things to it that I want to add. Like I want to buy a new soldering station that's much better because I've been watching videos on how to do all this desoldering and such because I also have my Logitech Z5500 surround sound speakers that died on me when my lightning hit. And I found on the Logic board, I ripped it apart and started looking at it. and I see where I believe I can see what fried. And I'm curious whether I now have the know-how, if not the skill, to at least maybe try to fix it. At least know what to fix. Because I've been watching this channel from a guy. I first saw him on Linus Tech Tips, because I love Linus, what they do up there, Linus Media Group. But it's a guy out in New York who specifically works on like Apple products almost exclusively and repairing them. And what's
tough job.
Great about him, well, he's a younger guy but really good at electronics, knows his stuff. He sits there and talks, and his streams are amazing. I am going to look him up real quick because I love what he shares. So let's see if I can.
Anybody who does that kind of research to help out other people are just the best. So yeah, we should.
Well, it's not just that. It's actually his job. He owns a shop in New York City where he does the electronics work, and in doing so, so yeah, there's a ton of.
He doesn't have to share that information out to the world, right? He's doing that for free on YouTube.
He's showing a lot of it. I mean, it's stuff that you would have to. You'd have to have the skill to do yourself, but he does share, like, this is where you can find these things yourself, this is where you can get all the information, so he does share that out there, but the skill he has and knowledge he has is ridiculous. And I say that because, like, I'm looking at what he does, and I'm like, maybe I could do some of these things? Louis Rossmann is his name, and so if you've seen any of his videos, Louis Rossmann, and I will link his channel, because it's Rossmann Group, but this is a guy who his videos are really solid for just information about what happens with repairing a lot of devices. And he focused on Apple stuff because Apple's a company, and this is somewhat kind of the news aspect of things. They are all about not letting people have the right to repair and fix devices themselves, and so that there's a whole discussion on there where that's probably the most compelling reason that I may cancel my Apple Care subscription, and I may
please do not support them.
Well, that's the thing. I may need to stop supporting them as a company because that's the only thing I have is my iPhone as a device from Apple. Otherwise, I've never really owned anything else.
Have you seen the article making the rounds this week? It was actually on this topic, and it's somebody saying about the ethics of it. Because basically, they know fine well they're targeting youths and students mainly, people who spend a lot of their, earned income on this luxury product, which is fine.
Yep.
But they don't realize that such a large amount needs to be going into repairing, and a large number of them get broken, right?
Well, it's basically that they've set up their devices to be only good for about 2 years, and then they actually have it built in for you to have to replace or repair it yourself.
Oh, they don't have to. It plays on human psychology, right? So if your device slows down, eventually starts to irritate you, and there's the exact same time that adverts come out talking about this brand new phone that's nice and fast, you think, oh, that would make my life a lot better because we're really good at catching micro weights, right? Like if you unlock your phone, you expect an instant response, right? Like, okay, watch 3, 2, 1, instant. That's what you want, right? But I bet in 2 years' time, if I tried that, it'll be 3, 2, 1. And then another half a second. And that half a second, you always are cognitive of it, right? You're constantly aware of that little gap. And it does it with every single button press, every single tap. And it gets really annoying.
Which very specifically, Apple and whatever gate you want to talk about, their slowdown stuff they do. And I listened to a ton of stuff from Twit, from Leo Laporte's podcast still. Probably my number one podcast I listen to is anything on the Twit network because he has some of the industry leaders, and Leo's been podcasting since the beginning. I love his work, but in his Apple News stuff they do, or any of them actually, they've talked about as well the slowdowns that happen when essentially what Apple does is to help support their battery life claims and stuff, because you can't replace their batteries, that as they any condition that lets them know that the battery may not be up to snuff, they actually tell the phone to start operating slower to improve battery life.
That's their excuse anyway, yeah.
And well, it's part of the network that they have in there, and it's a way to maintain a overall. It's one of those. Would you rather have your phone perform at full speed but last shorter and shorter time frame until it's, can't be unplugged essentially, or would you rather it have some battery life but run like a piece of crap? Don't know. But Apple has decided
I'd rather have them design the freaking hardware in a way that you can easily buy the replacement part yourself for $20, and you just unscrew it, or press a button, unclicks, put in the U1, bam, done. But instead, you need to send it off to Apple. You need to wait 2 weeks. You need to get a $400 repair, or you need to pay for a monthly subscription to have your device repaired.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know if you've seen the other video that was getting shared around this week. People were showing that there's this guy who goes in with a problem with his iPad, and he tries to show that. Oh, sorry, this is Mac. Sorry. And he tries to show that he's got this problem that he knows he can fix in 2 seconds by unscrewing something, reconnecting something, and closing it again, or something like that. He takes him to the shop. He says he can do it for free, right? He asks them what's needing done. They say it'll be about $1,200, and it'll take about 2 weeks.
That was,
and they also recommend replacing the screen.
Yes, that was on the news. I saw that one. Well, because they did do a thing where if you looked at it, I want to say that the water sensors, well, Rossman had showed some of these. They have little water sensor things in the computers that they do in their MacBook Pros and such that turn red if they've been exposed to moisture. The problem is they tell you as though it means you've spilled liquid on the device, but in reality they can go off just from being in a high humidity area. So being in the UK, it's something where it doesn't matter. It might just set off, but they use that as an excuse to say in order to fix anything they have to replace everything. And so it's kind of, and there's no proof of this, but it's almost like the MO for the company is to say that if there's a problem, they're going to find every reason to tell you to replace the device versus get it fixed. And the challenge is there are companies like iFixit. Rossman's a great example showing the information about of how all of these things are actual repairable. The biggest challenge, like from a iFixit perspective, is it's just ripping something apart in a good way and replacing it with a part that they recommend can work. Rossman goes a lot more in detail about here's what's actually wrong down to the single chip or component that failed on the board. And he will desolder, delit it, and pull off certain chips and replace it with a $5 chip or such and get it to actually work perfectly. And it's been compelling to me because it shows that you can repair a lot of devices. It takes some knowledge. And now he has the great equipment. He has tons of electrical engineering teaching and skill. And so he talks about also the fact that his stuff ain't cheap. Like if he's going to fix a MacBook Pro or something, it's probably going to cost you $500-$600 for him to fix a board or do something. But he also does a thing where he charges per the thing that he's going to have to repair, and it'll be higher than most people, but it's because he will take ownership of that repair through the entire device, meaning as soon as he touches it, he's responsible for it. So even though it might be a simple-ish fix for him because he has the experience, meaning desoldering parts of the chip and resoldering them on there and realizing which chips need to be fixed, because he keeps them in stock, he has the knowledge and ability to do that. Elsewhere, people would just say, buy a new board, which is going to cost you $800. And so you're paying for something that might only take him a half hour to do, and he may live stream it drunk doing it, but other people can't even do that. And so it's absolutely worth the price he charges for those things. It's really cool. So anyway, but it got me some ideas, because now looking at my Logitech board, these speakers, if you try to find a like in-box version of this speaker that I bought years ago for $500 or something like that, they're going for $1,200 today, because they are the best computer surround sound system that's basically ever been released. And you can't get them anymore. I mean, Logitech came up with a series after them that was slightly upgraded, but everybody agreed that this past series was the best. And so I have found used ones for about $200 here and there, but most of them are still selling at retail price of $500 to $600 if you can find them used. And so for the board, instead of me, I could just throw money at the problem and get a replacement board, or get a whole new setup, used one, or I could try to fix the actual electronics. And so I have it open, but now because of that, in my cart, I've got a microscope, little cheap USB one, like $20, set up so I could really look and diagnose the board. As well as I've got like a better soldering kit set up, and a few things that are just there, where if I look at Rossman's group, because he shows all the equipment he uses, I could easily spend a couple $1,000s getting like some good solid equipment together to get started. But I'm kind of in that let me baby step. I don't need it because I'm not running a repair shop. But for the repairs I would do here at home, I can see it. Because the funny part is I've soldered thank goodness I've got that soldering bug going, because it goes right into my geek cred part that I'll get to after, about all of the stuff I do with my 3D printers to keep them up and going, and why I'm setting that station up right between the 3D printers, because it's one of those things, it's a project that keeps on projecting as you go forward. I highly recommend Rossman Group. checking out his stuff. Just if you're into electronics and into kind of that self-repair stuff, and I am huge now on the repair or the right to repair things like, and there are companies that are against it, which hurts me because I want to support these companies and a lot of things they do well. Because Apple's still wonderful for form factor, UI, and user experience when it comes to like actually utilizing their devices. Their hardware is crap because they want you to replace their hardware. And it's kind of like I want some other company to get the baby of those two, where, you know, I got to play a little bit yesterday with an LG V40, I think. It's a brand new LG that comes out next week because the friend whose birthday it was works there and gets them free early for working for LG. And so he was showing me it has 5 cameras on it, on the device for a phone. Like 2 front-facing, 3 rear-facing cameras. And he was showing me how you can take a single picture and have it at 3 different zoom levels at once, and how you can kind of blend those images and do so. I was like, okay, this is ridiculous, but cool. And so there's other companies out there making great hardware. I just want more of the Apple interface on some of them. And I don't know. It's tough. But yeah, you'll probably hear me in the future.
Interfaces in the UI, you mean?
The UI, the user interface. And so the whole...
Dude, that you can install anything you want onto any Android device. You can easily find different ways of doing it.
No, you're right. I agree. But the challenge is, one of the good things that Apple's actually done is because they have such control and a unified UI experience, most apps just work and don't crash out often and don't lose performance over time. And they do, while it may not be the most robust way to do it, but from a user experience perspective, it works really well, is that switching apps and loading apps all seem to work beautifully no matter what. Where on Android devices, if you're not careful sometimes, depending on the app, you can actually get into situations where you're overloading the phone or you're causing too many things to run at once and they all start to crap out. And that rarely happens on an Apple phone. And so there's elements of the way that there's advantages to how Apple keeps their entire like ecosystem very controlled, to the advantages of having the freedom that you get with an Android device. And I kind of want that medium, something in between, and I've yet to see it. But yeah, my challenge, part of the reason I'm on Apple Care right now is because I got the iPhone X, and so I spent a lot of money on this dang phone sitting next to me. And you know, it's a $1,000 phone that I'm making payments on. But I rolled it into my Apple Care so that I'm paying for it all at once. So what's nice is it means I get up to 3 catastrophic repairs. So if the screen breaks, if it crunches in half, something like that, that they will replace the phone up to 3 times in the 2-year time frame. But at the same point, at the end of 2 years, and this is what I was leaning on, but we'll see if I change my mind with this, because I'm paying slightly more on it, not a ton, but like an extra $10 a month, something like that. It puts me in a program that if I can just roll my payments in to getting a free, or going into the same program with the next phone that comes out in the 2-year time frame. So every 2 years you just get the next phone and you keep paying the same amount, essentially.
I can see why that's appealing.
And that's the thing. So I was like, okay, this is a reasonable enough, in essence, price point for me to try it out. Kind of like leasing a car or something like that. And so I was giving it a shot for this. Now I'm having misgivings about it because the more I learn about the, you know, right to repair and kind of consumer policies, and I'm a big fan of everybody having control of their own technology, makes me less willing to, you know, support them in the future. So I'm having this like,
regardless of anything else, there's one point that we haven't been able to dispute whatsoever, is the fact that they choose to design it so you can't easily access the hardware because they want to get the money to keep repairing it or getting replaced, right? That is something that I've not heard anybody manage to successfully defend. And it's because you can say that they want to be simplified for the user, they don't want to worry about repairing, etc. That's nice in theory, but they should still have it, like, any device should be easily repaired as well as just robust in the first place. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, heaven forbid we make devices that are meant to last some time. But again, that doesn't make manufacturers happy because they want to continuously sell you something new. It's why we're in a society now as a whole worldwide where most things are designed to wear out in 2 to 5 years. Where there's reasons you can still find things that our parents and their parents purchased back in the day that they can still use today, because they were built out of heavier materials with more robust equipment, because there was a solid repair society back then, and so it was okay to take it into a shop to get repaired. Just like you're talking about with the Yeti mic, you know, trying to get the Yeti mic replaced or repaired has got to be difficult. But here's the thing, I bet you it can be. The challenge is we just don't have dedicated repair shops anymore that know the intricacies of doing it. And so, but I bet you in the same sense I am, because actually I may do this with my Yeti mic. I don't know, there's a reason I'm on this setup. Also, the Yeti mic I have is only USB. It doesn't have the XLR. But whenever I'd plug my Yeti mic in, it would start to lock things up, and I think the actual USB interface on it just was failing. And so part of me wants to do some research onto what chips it uses and whether this is an issue for others. And if so, see if I can't find the actual onboard chips and maybe replace them as I get better at soldering. And so let's see if I can replace this $100 microphone or rebuild it for under $20. That would be worth it to me. As well as for me, I get a lot of value out of learning how to do these things myself. And so it's kind of back and forth. A lot of people, they just want to spend the money to have the convenience of having something new and working. I have something that works now, so it's kind of a side project. Just like with my speakers, while I'm down here, I get to use this setup I have of the whole stereo thing in my basement and headphones and such, so it works. But if I go back up to my office, I'll have to only have headphones because my speaker system's not working. But because I have a backup, I could still take the time to try to learn how to fix this myself. So we'll see. But the other thing with Right to Repair, another company that's notoriously bad about this, but I've been watching a lot of videos about people that are trying to get around it, is Tesla. So Elon Musk's company, Tesla with cars, they get around a lot of little things because, and this is somewhat the Geek-O-Scope section here, which is news, is that, because one of the articles I have is about Tesla, they don't let people work on the cars themselves. They basically say that if you do it at all, it voids all warranty and stuff like that. And they're trying to lock things down tech-wise, where if you touch anything, you're basically giving up your warranty. And I've watched some great channels of some guys out east, I think, who basically find wrecked Teslas and has been tearing apart, reverse engineering everything he can about it to actually be able to build his own Tesla. It's kind of his goal. He actually started with a flood victim car and several wrecked cars, has been pulling pieces and parts out of them, and has, I think, enough parts in his garage or warehouse to build like 3 full Teslas, and is essentially doing so, but then is having to get around some of the like programming and software issues. But one of his challenges is he'll call Tesla and say, I need to buy this part, which is like a plug for something. And they essentially say, who are you? Oh, you're not one of our 5 authorized repair shops or something. That's very hard to find one. Kind of like Apple, finding a third-party authorized repair shop is difficult as heck. That they're like, no, we can't sell to you because you're not one of our few people. And so actually getting any of these replacement parts is almost impossible because the company will not sell to individuals, to private company, because they don't want an aftermarket repair shop. They want only their technicians to touch the cars. And that's another one where, and thankfully, this gentleman who's doing the work on Teslas lives in a state in the United States that has a right to repair law. And so they basically say no company can deny you. Now, it's difficult because where companies are housed, but it means he's protected legally because these companies have tried to come at him with things about intellectual property, copyright, patent law, all these things of violations just because he's trying to find ways to repair things himself. And Apple does the same thing. And so, like, even recently, Apple sued a person in Sweden or Norway, I forget which, who, for a right to repair, who is doing repairs on MacBooks, I want to say. It's one of the things that Rossman mentioned. And actually, the guy won. The shop won, but now Apple, of course, has gone and appealed the decision and is trying to get it reversed. But so things like that. And actually, Rossman said he's going to try to.
That kind of thing needs to be spread more. When a company is actually an asshole like that, and there's been a court decision backing the citizen in this case. I mean, the right to repair your goods is almost a basic human right.
It really should be. You should be.
Not everything in our house, like, that's just ridiculous. I just, what world do they live in where they think that we should all just call specialized services whenever we need anything in our house repaired?
This is the same thing that we run into when it comes to DVD players. Still have this, that you're, basically all movies and music and things like this that you purchase, that the license that you're paying for is a right to use it only in the way they see fit, that you don't own anything, right? That it's all just a license to use. And I am so against that. It goes back to original patent law and copyright law that you've heard me rant about in the past, that once you purchase something, it should be damn well yours. And there was the original concept with all things in the world to make society and people better is shared knowledge that after 7 years in patent law, you were supposed to be able to allow anything you came up with to become public source, public ownership so that anybody could innovate off that idea. It gave you reasonable time to make money off of the idea you came up with. And if you didn't after that, it became part of the public domain, at which point now anyone can make money off it and innovate it and do something with it. And unfortunately, we have too many companies that have been given rights that basically act as though they are people that allow them to keep these rights far beyond what was originally intended. Disney is...
There's an element of romantic, I guess, element to it, because, you know, when you think of, like, Mickey Mouse, like, of course that's Disney, right? That feels like it should be Disney.
Yes.
Disney just feels appropriate. But there's every single person who ever worked on it is dead.
Disney,
like, how can a company
the fact that
own that now?
The fact that Disney as a company has no original content, period. And fight me. Find something that Disney has ever created by themselves. Everything that they have come up with has been based on someone else's intellectual property. Even back to the original introduction of Mickey Mouse with Steamboat Willie came off of a live action, and I forget the name of it, but a silent film that was basically they copied almost verbatim from to make Steamboat Willie. And so tell me that Disney has done anything that they should own. But the other problem is they as a company have been the one that have pushed for these laws to go extended further and further and further to the point, and every time that Mickey Mouse is coming under threat, they go and spend millions of dollars to campaign to extend the laws out and the rights. And they're part of the reason that now companies are treated as people versus whenever the original content developer, the person who made it, dies, it should go out to the public. But because of that, we are stifling innovation probably more than anything else that we've ever done for invention by trying to allow companies to make money for life. It used to be the idea, and I've talked about this before, to be an inventor, you had to keep inventing stuff in order to make money and to be relevant. You could never, back in the day, invent the one thing and retire for life off it because everybody now has to pay you royalties anytime they touch it. Thus,
case in point, birthday song, right? Happy birthday.
Oh my God, right? The reason that we don't sing that online, although now it's open source finally, right?
No, it's fine. That's why I did it. I know that we can get away with it with no problem now, because it was owned by some company who had some tenuous connection to it for ages. And if anybody used it in any official manner, they would scream. They would scream about how much money they were owed. They
were making more money fighting people in courts, and this is the problem with all of these things, than they were basically having to make something new. It made more economic sense for them to pay for lawyers to constantly fight for finding any opportunity they had to pull money from other people than it was for them to make a legitimate business and create new things. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's part of the challenge and problem with this. So I am a big advocate of everything about, right to repair, consumer advocacy, and anything that helps us as people, right? I'm a big fan of that for us as consumers, as individuals, not companies, because it's so bad.
Not particularly socialist or communist. It's just a case of,
it's the original.
There's an element where what you've created is not for you. What you've created is for our society. However, you should also benefit for the first X number of years. Absolutely, you created, you should be rewarded. Absolutely. Even if you make millions, that's totally fine. No problem with that. But there's a certain point where you don't need to keep on living. After 10 years of getting $5 million a year, you're already made more than the average person does in their lifetime. You don't need the rest of it, right?
Well, it's not that. It's if you want to continue on that trend, that's fine. Continue to invent and make new things.
Yeah.
That's the real piece of it, because back in the day, inventors invented stuff. And they kept inventing. So do that. Don't do it once and then sit on your butt and think that you should be paid for life. That's my challenge. I want people to be actual inventors. Anyhow, that's a piece of all that. Is I've been ranting and raving, and it's probably now almost time for us to take a break, and I need to go and find an actual song to put in there versus what I've had from last week, since I've been in a bit of a rant today on the rights to repair and stuff. And I will continue going a little bit because I'm not quite done with what I was going to talk about with my geek stuff, because I was actually going to talk about the weekend and what I've done with birthdays and weddings. So just yesterday as a whole, what I was going to bring in, as I try to multitask and find the song that I'll play during the break, I started out the day, well, and it's actually part of why I have this look for anybody who's in the video wall, and whether you've actually been able to recognize what's going on with my look, because it's not just one thing, it's multiple. But you know what? Why do I only have... I need to set up another thing in my holiday music section for what's legal holiday, because right now all I have is Christmas stuff in there. I need to have stuff for, like, Halloween. Yeah, I should have Halloween stuff, like remixes of, you know, famous Halloween music. I should find some of that. It is the right month for it. Anyhow, started by... So I am in essence in costume. I'm going to pull off the cans so that you can see the full costume here. Partly what it is my hair, for those paying attention in the video wall, is essentially straight right now. I straightened it. I'll put these on a little bit so I can hear reaction, but yeah, I've straightened my hair. I got a flat iron and everything to do this. And it's only going to last hopefully through today, because hopefully if I actually put water on it, wash it, it'll start to curl again, because I don't
You suddenly look like a teenager who really, really likes metal music, but also wants everybody to know that.
I should actually video myself like headbanging with this, or something. Well, because I'll headbang with my long hair, but now that it's straight, see it like wave and such. But yeah. I did this particularly for a costume look. I also have this long goatee beardish thing, which is not mine. This is glued on, and it's because the character, if you look up Ordell Robbie from Jackie Brown, the movie, I went to a wedding thing that was specifically for the character, and so I can get it in full. I'm going to put on the hat that goes with it. And normally it's pulled back into a ponytail in the back, so that you have this long like hair in the back piece, and you wear the official Kangol hat, Kango. And so this is, you know, old school, like late 90s look kind of thing, or 90s look. But the whole idea of it was that character specifically is a Samuel L. Jackson character that from the movie Jackie Brown. And so I will talk to that in a moment to see why that's relevant. But I started the day getting ready for that and having to get my face and everything appropriately set up. That's why I'm shaved and everything, because it's always for costume. But I went out in costume that most people didn't recognize. First, I went to a birthday event down at Dave & Buster's, the arcade carnival type place, where we got food and played some video games for two of my cosplay friends who were nice enough to invite me out. Able to buy them some drinks so they could celebrate their birthdays, which is good fun, supporting that. And then from there, I went out to a bar downtown. I forget the name of it. I don't know if it's the one that the gal whose event it was actually works at, or if it's just one that she knows a bunch of people out. But
bar one, no.
Well, so I forget that. It's like Spirits and something. But it was a neat place. I hadn't been to before. If I've been there at any... I don't believe I've ever been there before. It might have been, if I have, it's been under a different name at some point in the past, because things downtown change all the time. But what was cool about it is it was a celebration of her and her husband's wedding, as they just got married yesterday. It was fun because they had a very intimate ceremony, handful of people, and reception. They say it's small because it was only like, they said 60 people at the reception, which is, I think, a decent wedding. But for them, they considered it fairly small. And then
I know of weddings where you invite like everybody that you once knew at high school and everything, right?
It can be. I can see. Oh yeah, it could be significantly more. For me, it was funny because I think 60 people at a reception is actually a solid number in anything I've seen. But you know, they were concerned or kind of thinking like, oh no, this is more people than we were gonna, or that's a lot of people essentially. I was like, actually, I think that's just the right amount. But so what they did is they separated out the ceremony and reception for one group of friends, and then they had afterwards a celebration at the bar for everyone to come just help them celebrate. And nice. In doing so, what was great is they brought in a punk ska band out of San Diego, so they had live music up, and it was upstairs in a private event. The place was packed, so there was another like 60-some people at the bar for celebrating that evening. But they themed the wedding event as a Quentin Tarantino movie event.
Oh, God. Okay.
And so, essentially advising people to dress from any of the Quentin Tarantino movies. And there were some really solid costumes out there. In fact, one of the gals bartending looked perfect as... Is her name Mia or whatever? From... shoot, Uma Thurman's character from Pulp Fiction. I forget her name though, but or is it Vicky? I forget her name. But that character from it and looked really great, the part, and had like the syringe, but instead of in the center of the chest from the adrenaline shot, like on the side, with a little blood thing on it.
Oh, cool.
Vicky Valentine? I don't know. But that to a T, and it was great because Chad and Mars, so congratulations to them for getting married, are such an eccentric but fun couple. And I've had the experience of being able to meet up with them and go to certain events at different times through another friend of mine. But they had so many people out doing this and dancing. The band was great. The band was called the Stilettos, I think. And it's a 3-part band, gal and guy, her on drums, him on guitar, and a guy that they said they hadn't played with for a while on bass, older gentleman. Really great sound, good punk kind of, and cover of all kinds of different songs. But essentially we were doing a lot of swing dancing throughout. I mostly by myself, but I was looking the part, and it's funny because I think only the bride, Mars, knew right away my character and who I was portraying, where most people I think didn't get it because a lot of them were going more old school. They were doing more of the Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs looks.
Understandably.
And things like that. Actually, several Kill Bill series ones where I think I was the only Jackie Brown one. And so that was interesting because most people didn't get it. But yeah, in that his character has the long like goatee thing and the back. And the fun part is the goatee I actually made yesterday. It's just thread that I pulled off of like the black spools of thread I have back in the corner there. And I put a piece of tape and kind of made a weft almost where I just laid them all out, braided it, and then put some glue in the back to kind of hold it together. And then cut it all off and put a little spirit gum and boom, on. Is like, haha, sudden fake braided goatee. Enough so that I actually had more than one person ask me if I braided my hair, my goatee, and how long it really was. And I was like, success! They thought this thread was my actual hair. So
well done. That's a pretty tough thing to do because faking hair is people can always tell, right? Like wigs and everything. People can just at a glance tell somehow by some magic. We're very good at that, noticing that kind of thing. Well, so the fact you managed to get past that is quite impressive.
Oh, I was just happy I never expected that, but I knew people would kind of not get it. And especially at the Dave & Buster's event I went to, they didn't know until I told them. They're like, oh, okay, because several of them, they know me from costume stuff. So when they saw me, they didn't recognize me at first because again, shaved, all that different, and then long straight hair versus my normal curly, as Hando said, the Frosian being flat. And so it was interesting to see their reactions to everything being different, but that happens in the cosplay community all the time. Anyhow, all right, cool. So with that, I've got a song queued up. We're going to listen to Shadow Room Dummy from OC Remix, Tales of Dysphoria, Pixelated Tales through the break for about 4 minutes plus. And so we are going to get out of here for a moment. You're listening to Show X on VTWProductions.com, and we'll be right back after this. So take your break, dance to the music, run to the restroom, whatever you need to do. We'll be back right after this.
Send in your emails to showx@vtwproductions.com. listening to Show X on btwproductions.com.
Aha, perfect. Welcome back, everybody. Good to have you. All right, it is time for us to talk more officially about...
I'm a geek. Are you a geek? Geek cred level up!
And along with that, we have an email. As we do that, and we'll talk about WoW stuff and things like that. What did you have to say, Cam?
I was going to say you were rolling for me, sir.
I was going so good.
You've been fine the whole time until now.
I think because of the break and me not talking for a little bit might have done that. Trying to figure out what the difference between it all is so that I can figure out how, to keep
Maybe
this...
Maybe Discord, or like here's there's no connection or something, and it tries to, I don't know. Maybe you might have something to do with not hearing something. Maybe.
Yeah, it might be something where it tries to stop for a little bit. I should check those settings a little more. Just to see what it's doing and try to figure out if there's a way to improve that. So we'll see. But yeah, it was doing so good as I just kept up a constant flow of speaking.
Yeah, and that seems to be key for some reason.
Yeah, it might. Go ahead, sir.
Oh yeah, just so yeah, so email. But yeah, go on.
Well, in that case, because you've heard my voice for too long now, why don't you talk the email for us, Ken?
Sure thing. So we've got multiple emails from Wayne, and one email here that's not from Wayne. This is from Cupcheck/Happy Dude. So this time last week was the last time I chimed in, and a lot has been going on. 7 days ago, so this time last week, I quit my job in a fit of rage.
Oh no!
Wow. The way I've been describing it to people is that the job has been getting more toxic than that Twitch chat during the League Championship Series.
Wow.
Well, more toxic than LCS. That's something, man.
That is a fair bit of toxic.
That's a fair bit. Yeah, I had to go to not only help myself physically and also mentally, as it has turned into a huge dumpster fire. Good for you, sir. Being able to leave your job is some of the tough decisions. So that sounds like you made the right decision. So what am I doing in the meantime? I'm taking the 365-day challenge by streaming. I'm planning to stream for at least 4 hours a day.
Wow.
And with me being a Twitch affiliate, it is going to kick butt, right?
Hey, nice.
Wrong.
What?
Last night was dedicated to the FGC as I played Killer Instincts on Windows 10, and I forgot to mute my opponent. And for the first time in recent memory, making me hate my former employer as he spills racial slurs trying to find one triggers. Oh, jeez, of course.
Well, okay. So that happens, especially in competitive gaming, because it's one of those things that most people would like to not think is a real thing, and it happens in sports all the time. You look at any football game, be it soccer, American football, rugby, any of those kind of things where people get close to each other, they are saying some very pointed things at each other because if they can get you off your game mentally, that gives them an opportunity to beat you physically. And so the same thing happens in gaming all the time. And the best I can say is one of the reasons I don't do a lot of competitive online gaming, because sometimes it does affect me, mostly because I don't have responses because that's not how I play. And so I recommend if you're going to get into that, muting is smart. If not, just realize that's their goal in the game and just ignore it or joke at it, because one of the things that'll probably throw them off more than anything is when you don't react, or you react with that's the best you've got, psh, and keep going, because it's going to infuriate them and you might actually psychologically beat them. But that is a challenging point of it, so good luck with that. Anyhow, I'm sorry, Ken, continue.
I would say the same thing. It's the same with most bullying tactics, right? That's kind of what it is. Any kind of bullying tactic, the best thing to do is to ignore it. Or, as you said, make fun of it. The most important thing, no matter what you do, is not let it get to you, because that's what they're trying to do, and it's just going to encourage them more. So if you can not let them know it's getting to you, even if it is, that's the best thing you can do. Good advice, Wayne. So last night, he goes on to say, with me bored on Sundays, I'll be joining you guys for a game night, if that still exists, and be an awesome community that isn't full of buttholes. Well, I'm still here, so
there's that.
I'm the community butthole. That's my nickname, the community butthole.
Is that?
Yeah, it's absolutely my nickname.
I mean, because that could be taken multiple ways, Ken. I mean, either it could be a very well offered thing, in which case you are such a generous person.
I would like to think of myself as generous, but I don't think I'm generous in that manner. To be honest.
Well, I mean, it's one thing to be a butthole, to be a community butthole.
Maybe we should be like that should be like, if we ever have a competition, that should be like what you win if you become like last place, right? If we're going to do a Rocket League together.
Well, that's
so your last place. You're the community butthole, and you get all responsibilities there. Well, that may be. So thank you very much for the email, sir. That's much appreciated. How's it going with the rest of the job situation? Have you found another one? Are you planning to find another one soon, or are you just going to take a little time off? Because I've always been a big advocate of whenever you leave your job for whatever reason, be it through mutual arrangement, being let off, or you want to get another job, whatever it may be, I highly recommend taking some time off in between because, I don't think that, well, at least here in the UK, you're supposed to get 4 weeks a year off in the most minimum jobs, right? Like any job has to have at least 4 weeks off a year. School teachers probably the ones that get the most time off, apart from maybe footballers or something.
Gotcha.
And so I'm of the opinion that if you leave a job, give yourself a couple weeks break, get your house in order, do some chores, do some fitness, do whatever you need to do for your mind, for your body, for your family. Put that time in for all the stuff you made excuses for. Right now is your time. You don't have anything there to get in the way. Make the most of it. So hey, I'm glad to hear you're doing the streaming. That's fantastic. That's something that it sounds like you've been wanting to do for a while. So yeah, do that. 4 hours a day is quite a lot. Wow. You can do it. Good for you.
Well, own it and do the research with it. Figure out what your target audience is, what kind of things they want. If you want to make it a profession, make it a profession. Work at it like you would any job. So the 4 hours you're streaming, stream. The 4 hours a day for a traditional 8-hour day that you're not streaming, work on what it means to be a streamer and what your brand is and things you're doing. Now, I say this because Wayne's personal advice to anyone who's going through job situations is, I understand when in your situation being different, the fact that something came up that was so fed up you had to get out at that moment. If that is not the case, my recommendation for anybody is, if you need to do a change of employment, go and do what things you need to do to secure that change of employment before quitting your current job, if you can. Because that way you don't have to worry about as much of a financial challenge in between.
Absolutely.
It's more of a time sink, and it is a challenge to do so, but do so. And if you are between jobs and looking to acquire another job, one of my recommendations is treat your finding a new job like a job. Spend 8 hours a day on things you need to do to find that new job. Updating, I'm forgetting the name. What, your CP? Your
CV.
CV. Update your CV, your resume. Do the querying of what people are after, things like that. Spend as much time as you would at a job finding a job. Things like that. That's just my own personal advice out there because I have run into, again, this is not to your challenge, Cupcheck. This is from what I've seen others around my friend groups do on occasion where they get so emotional about a situation that they will
Which is understandable, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, but they'll make a rash decision sometimes and quit a job without any plan towards the future and thus suffer having quit that job versus making it a decision that they're making to better their way. So like I said, not your position, Cupcheck. This is me saying it for others I've experienced where they made a quick decision where they probably could have got through a situation a little longer and been better off financially in the meantime. And so that's just
as well as finances aren't everything though. I mean, if you're back to Cupcheck, if your position was a place where you felt like you had to quit, which it seems to be, right? That's absolutely fine. Good for you for getting out of there before it affects you any further mentally. I think it's as toxic as you say. Damn, you did the right thing from the sounds of it.
Yeah, I'm just providing that as a secondary thing for people to not only take your example as the way to do, just because I've seen people do that and put themselves in some struggle.
Right? I don't think anybody would think that leaving your job on the spot is a good idea when you've not got any plans. Of course, it's fair to have plans, but
I say this though because
to recognize the other side too.
I say this because the younger generations that are currently in the workforce, I have seen people quit jobs because their manager was terse with them once, gave them corrective action that they felt wasn't justified. So they're like, "Oh, I can't work in a place like this. I quit." And I was like, "Whoa! If you can't shoulder one manager being a little unfair to you, good luck with the rest of your life, because you're gonna run into it again. Managers can be arses. Most people aren't ever trained to be a manager. They just kind of make up to that point as, you know, they progress and have been with a company for some time. So I try to explain this for the younger generation who, like the difference being in my generation, we might run through 4 or 5 jobs/careers in our lifetime. The current generations of those entering the workplace are more like 20. Yeah. Because there are people who won't work a job for 6 months, and the first time they have something negative happen to them, they just quit. And it's changing.
I would say there's more to it than that, though.
There is.
I know that in IT, for example, it's kind of the position now where if you don't quit frequently, you only get like minor pay grade of improvements.
So
if you leave and jump up at another 5K, that's worth doing.
Well, so that's the difference, though. There's one thing if you are changing jobs to make a step up in your career. Yeah. That's something that looks good in many ways, although I don't know, it's a chicken and egg situation too, because companies are also reacting to this because they're offering less benefits for people who stick around for a long period of time, as well as though because it's not worth them to offer those long-term benefits because they realize most of their employees aren't going to stick around long enough to earn them. So they're not truly incentives. And so it's going back and forth. And so because they're not offering real retirements and things like that, it also means that people don't feel a need to stick with the company. So it's kind of back and forth challenge.
We've got quite good laws in the UK when it comes to that kind of thing. We, generally speaking, will always have a retirement scheme. It's the law. You must have
we have 401ks, but the problem with 401ks is they're not pensions. Pensions meant you have to own something of the company to actually get that money back, so you want to work with a company, singular company, for a length of time. 401ks are take it as you will. You can leave with them anytime you want. And so companies are also incentivizing them less. There's a lot more complex social economic thing that goes into that. That's not the right place to discuss here. Sorry I brought it up, but that is my general reaction when I hear anything about quitting a job. It's like, that's cool. I'm glad you did it because it's your health. I've had similar situations with other things, but at the same time, I just want others out there because I've heard people latch on to a story like yours because they want that sympathy. They think, oh, that's what should work with me, without taking an honest look at their situation and realizing that that may not be the best answer. So I'll leave it at that, and we will continue on as we get into our geek cred. So thank you very much for the email. Love them as always. So thank you very much, Cupcheck. Love hearing from you. We wanted to talk a little bit about what we've been doing. WoW?
Yeah, sure. That sounds good.
All right. So only thing I have to mention, and because I am still a noob to the whole concept of everything WoW, I only have a couple notes in here. One, the Darkmoon Fair. Talked about it a little bit last week about my first interactions and going through, and anybody who watched the stream after the show of us gaming. I was running around the fair playing some of the games, getting shot out of a cannon to land in the water a few times, so I got the achievement for it, or not the achievement, but the quest reward, things like that. But I didn't get far enough to actually earn anything in the Moon Fair, so maybe I can put it in my bank, and next time it comes around I'll continue because it has ended. Now,
so next time you do it, you might want to install the thing's called Overachiever. It's a fantastic add-on that if you press Y, there's a tab there called Suggestions with that add-on. What? And it allows you to just find suggestions of stuff of where you are that you can do nearby. Instead of having to search through all the sub-menus yourself, it's not cheating or anything, in my opinion. It's just literally saying,
it's like, hey, next, this way, over here, look at that.
Yeah. So when you're at Darkmoon Fair, it says on one of the ones you're saying about the cannon, there's one where if you actually jump with the cannon, you land perfectly bang in the middle, you actually get an achievement for that as well.
Oh, dang it. Dang it. I need to go back there.
You can redo it. It's not a big issue.
No. I mean, you could do it all day. It's sad how much, if anybody watched the stream, they saw me just going around and around again, running back to the cannon to get shot again over and over again, because that was exciting. And I was always just a little too late. I never got it.
Yeah. There's also this wizard near the water that you can talk to and will teleport you back to the cannon for like 5 silver or something.
What? See, things if I had known.
Well, that's part of the learning curve, though, right? I've only just started the Darkmoon Fair as well. I've never really done it before.
Okay.
I did it all, and it's like the plague. So that was new. I ran back and forth like 5 times before I realized that when I was trying to get that stupid.
Well, then I blame Copy because she's been in the fair before and she could have told me.
Copy.
No. Well, I say this as I, being the noob, am striving to make sure every time we go to a dungeon or do anything that somebody has to explain to me the lore as we've started each one, and I've said, okay, everybody, why are we here? I need to know why.
Funny, though. It's nice though because there's some of the stuff that I've kind of half forgotten and need to revisit myself and learn. And plus, I'm looking forward to you getting to a higher level because there'll be more unlocked. I mean, I think now you've sort of seen all the dungeons you can do at your level.
Well, yeah. Well, so the part of it with the lore pieces of I'm really curious actually to do like all the stuff that came from the Burning Crusade, not the expansion itself, but the actual group, like the Legion and stuff like that. Because that's the storyline I know. So and what I have at least learned so far from the book I read, kind of the overarching true evil that has been leading into most of the things that happened in Azeroth. This extension of what the Legion is doing, the Burning Legion's doing across the universe, I guess, or reality. Yeah, and that it's focusing on Azeroth as a whole, where a lot of these entities come together. And so I want to hear about how some of those big entities die and your interaction with those in the game. That's to me what's going to be super interesting, as well as like some of the leadership of the various groups, from Thrall to Doomhammer to all these other characters, right? And what they do, the big name one, Proudmoore, and all of them, right? And so I want to experience some of those big events, because the stuff we've done so far, as I in the notes say, Nomoran, yeah, is that that instance, and it's kind of a side quest and story to me for the most part. Yeah,
there's quite a lot of the other dungeons are. Well, you can't save the universe when you're low level, right? Like
essentially,
you need to start off somewhere.
Well, and they do some teases because when you know enough of the backstory, you understand why. Like me still going through the Alliance side and in Ashenvale and stuff like that, why the corruption, that's kind of the whole backstory there, is happening in the first place, right? That is part of the bigger story, because it is the demons and stuff that are really the source of that throughout the land. But when you first start, you just know that there's something going on in the land, that, these animals have been corrupted and things.
Oh, right? In Ashenvale it is, but I think right now most of the stuff you'll be doing will be Cataclysm-based stuff. So it's more going to be old gods, death, and demons.
Well, the Ashenvale stuff is demons, which leads to, again, the bigger story. I have yet to get into a lot of the stuff about the old gods. There's been maybe some hints to it. I'd have to see certain parts. And that's the problem with it, and honestly one of my challenges with WoW and the way the story goes is it's hard for me to figure out when something is bigger story versus just this quick little side thing of mini stories. And so sometimes I'll catch something and it's like, oh wait, I think this is actually a bigger deal. Let me read that again. And it's like, oh, that is that one person or something. And so I'm struggling a little bit still, because I'm still a little bit trying to level and get through things.
Well, you know how we did BFD, Black Fathom Depths, one of that dungeon? Well, that one is, that's Old Gods, right? That's the Twilight Hammer. That's a group of basically cultists who are worshipping the old gods, and that's what we're be fighting there. Is a bunch of tentacles and stuff of an old god. Like you're fighting they're trying to summon old god crap.
Well, and I will admit, when I first ran into the big field of tentacles, I was a little off put. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for that in WoW. I thought WoW was a safe space.
I thought I closed my hentai beforehand.
I didn't expect that in game. So yeah, that's well, and the advantage is, I mean, I do like that you can. Well, that's a whole different type of RP. But I do like that gnomes. I do like that you can go through and a lot of the content a lot faster in many ways. And I love that they've done the balancing of leveling and stuff like that in the zone, so that people can come back and all run with you in a group. That's actually wonderful. Love that they've done some of those mechanisms. So I'm enjoying that aspect of the game. And it's just a challenge because I still feel that need to level in order to experience other things. And it's interesting, too, that when I ding certain levels, I could just hit 35, how it tells you in general that it's open to different dungeon. Like, oh, you can now do this. And I'm trying to understand how that fits lore-wise. Is that because if I was in a different part of the world, would that be one of the natural quest lines to take me to that dungeon? Or is it more for the random dungeons that you run and stuff like that?
I think it's more gameplay than it is any lore.
Okay, that you now have the level enough to be able to at least go through that dungeon, but it's not necessarily attached to where you'd be in the story.
Yeah, it's probably because the game wouldn't be very fun if you had access to everything from level 1, because then what's the point of leveling up? It's sort of an almost virtual bar where you need to earn the content, which makes sense to me. It's an RPG, right? So that's part of it. Also, it's you don't get more powerful because of the scaling, right? So if you go into level 60 and you're level 15, you can both do about equal damage, gear dependent. You know?
I was going to say, because I'm still pretty low on the damage meter as my rogue. I thought I would be...
Well, it's learning the skills of your rogue and learning how to do it, as well as learning what gear is good for you and having good gear for your level. I mean, if you're level 20 and have all epics that you bought off the auction house, and you're with level 60 who has all greens, you'll probably have DPS level 60, right?
Fair.
But the chances are also level 60s will probably have a lot more blues, a lot of nicer items. So there is a bit of off on the scale.
And admittedly,
it's also because as you level up, you get more abilities. Now that doesn't mean the abilities are better, right? If you're doing DPS at a scale, it doesn't really make a difference. But if you have, for example, an AoE one unlocked, suddenly you can do AoE damage, and your damage on the meters increases massively during AoE. So
which I gotta find out
if
rogues have any AoE things, because as far as I recall, they don't. Oh, and that's the challenge. I've also not looked at any other spec. I'm just assassination, and I don't know personally what the best stats are for any. Thankfully, you recommended what? Really. Well, you recommended Pawn, I think, as an add-on, or someone did. That might have been actually Tabby. I think might have. Whoever did.
I've got that one as well.
But because it tells you which gear, and the recent things I've seen from that is it's telling me some of the gear that I wasn't wearing, and I'm still not. I actually sold some of it, but said it would have been higher because of critical strike and stuff like that. So it would have helped specific abilities of mine better. And so that might be because of my spec. Because there's still a lot I have to learn.
That is linked to spec, absolutely. That's definitely linked to spec. So, for example, I don't know. If you're playing on a druid and you play on a character that's like the guardian spec, so tanking bear spec. You care more about stamina and health and agility to an extent. But if you're playing as like a Moonkin and you're doing damage as a magic user, you care about intelligence, which is a completely different spec.
Which makes it, but see, that's very different. As a rogue, I'm still in the mindset that it's all agility based, and I know that's vanilla WoW mindset. That's where this guy's from. So I'm probably missing out significantly on probably deeps that I could be doing. And so I'll have to look into it further. Yeah, I'll have to look into it further. But that's been an interesting bit. What else had we done? Like I said, we ran Nomergon. I'm going to say it right one of these times.
You said about that time, actually.
Yeah. So we ran that a couple times because we're just kind of still doing the random dungeon finder. And so when we got it, we got that one I think twice in a row.
I hate that place. It's just dull, and there's so much trash. You need a good steady pace of bosses to make the XP gains worthwhile. If you just have all trash, you may as well just be questing, right? It's just not. What's the point?
And it unfortunately has a bit of that feel to it, where these mobs are so the same throughout the entire quest, and the dungeon. The pulls are like the exact same. So, yeah, it's that. Anyhow, so that's what I remember us doing with this. Darkmoon Fair ended, and so what's the next one that's coming up as an event? Because these are my first time doing events, so that's been kind of fun.
So yesterday there was the Great Nomergon Run. That's a mini event, something they introduced in the past 2 years, I think.
Okay.
It's kind of
I saw the advertisements for it. I avoided it because gnomes. But
yeah, me too.
Actually, that was the reason. That was the reson Copy told me she avoided it. She's like, I ain't doing nothing with no gnomes on Moonguard.
Gnomes. I absolutely agree to that. Gnomes suck. But basically, the idea is it was something that somebody was organizing for charity, I think, originally in like 2010 or something.
Okay.
And every year he would do it online and say, come join at this time on this day, and we'll run from Nomergon down to like, I don't know, Stranglethorn Jungle or something. And people were like, that sounds like fun. And more and more people would take part, and they started raising money for charity, and that was great. Eventually, he asked Blizzard, like, hey, can we make... Sorry, Blizzard actually said to him, we'd like to implement this in the game. Can you give us your, not permission, but can we get can you honor it? Because, you made it, really. Which was really kind of Blizzard, actually. They didn't have to do that. It's their game, after all. And he said, yeah, of course, that'd be great to have it as an official thing.
Well, especially... especially if it still does a benefit to charity from it each time, that'd be pretty cool.
Not so sure.
So
I'm sure it does, but I don't know for certain.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's pretty neat. So yeah, that was something we were doing. That was the next holiday event. That was the last holiday event. The next one, we've got Time Walking Unlocking on Tuesday. So that is, let me see which one it is. Pandaria. So max levels are close to max levels. I think everybody who's post 85 actually can take part in this. Basically, the dungeons that you normally do during leveling 80 to 85, you can do any level above then as well. And it's called a time walking dungeon. So when you're doing it, it's like you're going back in the past. Your character is scaled down to that level. So you can do it with mixed levels, which is nice. So everybody from 85 up to 120 can all do it together, which is nice. But it also means that you unlock some certain gear that's been like specialized for time walking. So you get like Mr. Pandaria gear that's been scaled up to your level, right?
Okay.
So that's pretty nice. You get some new gear that's available. It's often is better than the stuff you can get in game normally. So it's something you really want to take advantage of if you're above that level. Also, you unlock time walking badges, I think they're called. Basically, it's a type of currency that you can unlock that you can buy a ton of interesting stuff with. 1 is gear, 2 is toys, 3 is pets, and 4 is mounts, which is nice. And also you can get your heirlooms with it as well. So if you want to buy heirlooms for your account to level up other characters quicker, you can get that through that as well. So there are quite a lot of benefits to doing time walking dungeons, and I do recommend them. It starts on the 16th and ends on the 23rd, so it's a week long. And the other one that's really interesting, of course, is from Thursday the 18th, Harrow's End begins.
Yay!
That lasts for 2 weeks, and that's something we'll have to do together as a dungeon, because I believe there goes to Scarlet Monastery, and you get to kill the Headless Horseman.
Oh, nice!
There's a good chance of getting epic ring.
Well, and are there also what do I want to say? Are there group or guild rewards for that? Because I know that was one of the things you were enjoying about some of the stuff, that if we had at least 3 guild members together in something, that it actually gave a benefit for that.
I don't think so. I don't think for that event specifically, but I know that if we did Scarlet Monastery together, we would get the guild achievement.
Yeah, for the guild piece of that. No, I was just curious, if that would kind of together, if we can do that.
There's good reasons for wanting to do guild stuff together. So there's certain achievements in the game that allow you to unlock extra things. For example, if we get a max level of every race, ally, and every class of every race. So, for example, every human that's like warrior, paladin, rogue, hunter, warlock, death knight, monk, priest, and mage, every single one of those to max level, we unlock Stay Classy, which unlocks another tab in the guild bank.
Oh,
we can purchase it.
Okay, see, that's kind of cool.
There's also scenario roundup. So complete the following scenarios, which are, I think they're all Mr. Pandaria based. They're mixed actually. They're mixed. But the reward is a guild shirt, so everybody can purchase a guild shirt from then on. If we complete 15,000 daily quests, we've got 5,000 so far at 15,000. We unlock the battle standard of coordination, which I don't know what that is, but that sounds cool. If you do Horde Slayer, which actually we very almost got, we just need to kill a bunch of trolls and pandas. We unlock the guild page, which is a little pet you can get. It's a little like human child that follows you around with a flag, which is quite fun. And there's lots of different stuff like this. So there's also actually fancy mounts you can get for the guild. Reigns of the Thundering Cloud Serpent being one of them, which is a really fancy one. So if we do all the heroic dungeons, I think actually, I don't think you can take it's raids. Together, we can unlock a really nice Cloud Serpent, which is like a thundering, sort of traditional Oriental-looking dragon mount.
Oh, neat.
So, yeah, so there's a lot of really interesting stuff that we can do together in the guild stuff. And that's why I find it exciting, because it's not only, it's nice to do achievements for yourself, but I think being in a guild that's done a lot of achievements is also something to be proud of. And it's something we can do together, and it's good fun. And over the years, we can be like, look what we've done together. We've done X thousand number of achievements, and that's just cool, right? That's a team effort.
It is really cool. Yes, no, that is cool. There's see, I'm starting. I am
watching, by the way.
See, I need to talk more. This is why I need to. This is why I need to keep talking. We'll figure this out. Damn roboting and things. But no, those are the kind of things that have actually been part of the reason I've started to come back to this, and it's the idea of actually doing these group events and such that I think is pretty cool. And I do have a bit of a, what do I want to say, an affinity for doing things as a team, as a group, all together. Like, hey, this is fun. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think playing as a team makes it more fun. So the more people we can get into the guild Knights of the Raven, the more we can do together, and that's extra fun. We do have 5 people who frequently play now, so that's 5-man dungeons we can do already, which is great. But having extra people is also good, because then we can swap in when people aren't around and stuff. It'll always be a first come first serve and what's available type thing, right? So whoever, if we're missing a tank, whoever can tank will be needed, right? Etc. So that's all good fun. All right. Have you tempted by alts yet? Or what else have you been doing?
No. God, no. I am focused on my one rogue, which is actually a throwback to my original thing, because I originally started as an undead rogue the first time I played WoW, for the year and a half I played, and even then I had a single tune, because I still play it very much like any other game I'd play where I focus on one. And, I mean, I have other tunes around. I still have my Tauren Druid on, wow, which server is that one on? Serathus? Something? I forget which server I'm running that one on. But that I kind of am tempted to go back to, just so I can fly around and, you know, change forms and do the things that I see Copy do all the time, although not turn into a majestic elk and say, ride me. And so stuff like that I run around. So, I mean, but I've been focused on pretty much my Night Elf, my Night Elf rogue that I haven't done before. And I also have on this server, I have not a paladin, I have a monk. Yes, I have a monk as well, as I was going through the Draenei storyline with that after reading the book, because Draenei are such a big part of that. So that's mostly what I've been doing, and again, trying to get through lore, because I want to learn the stories and do all that, so that's what's going. Cool. And Tabby's talking about, I'm in Dragonforn. Everybody wants to ride me.
I look forward to you getting towards the end game, because there's a lot of lore that's, you know, like, current and recent and interesting. For example, in the next patch, some of the stuff's been mined and released on Wowhead, etc., about Knight to Warrior Savanda, and basically she gets blessed by a loon through this ritual to become this extra powerful character, and she fights Nilthanos, who's the Sylvanas' #1 ranger, who's actually a human. He's the only human ranger that exists. He was originally, a human, but now he's undead, right? When he was human, he was the only one to be taken in by the ranger elves, being Sylvanas and her sisters, and trained by them. And he was like one of the best humans in terms of like agility and strength and stuff. He was just like really awesome, really knowledgeable, and a tactical commander of like supreme ability. Then he died, became a mindless zombie. Sylvanas, when she took over the Forsaken, or founded, I should say, the Forsaken, she found Nilthanos and raised him. Because they were so close, he decided to help the Forsaken. And he became her, I don't remember in Classic, you could kill him in Eastern Plaguelands. He was like a world raid boss you could do.
I think I might have actually done that, yeah.
Yeah, it was quite a difficult thing. But it turns out that they retconned it, right? They basically said that he was faking his death just to put off the Alliance or whatever. Then they brought him back. This is not a spoiler. This is known. This is like everywhere. It's not a spoiler. I'm sorry. Spoiler alert.
Okay. Okay. So here's the thing. For me, it's not, because I don't know enough story leading up to it. And I'll forget all of this until we're actually going through it, and then I'll be like, eh.
We don't know. But I'm not saying anything this new yet. All we know is that, like.
No, I mean, for someone, it's for someone who hasn't gone up through it. It might be new to them until they actually go to do that actual raid type thing, or that open world.
Okay.
No, it's fine. I wouldn't freak out about it.
I'm sorry, Sarah. I don't mean to give spoilers. I should be more careful of what I consider a spoiler.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
But the one is there's a lot of stuff going on that I would love to be able to discuss on the show. Is possible future stuff and where the game is going and what they plan to do.
Yeah, no, you're probably going to get more WoW talk, as I'm actually supportive of it right now. Anyhow, so expect that going forward, whether that's what you're into or not. Let us know if not, but to let us know, don't wait till it's in chat. Give us some emails, give us some feedback so we can plan. As I do the plug for that shamelessly. With that, though, actually, just to finish up, because we're doing WoW talk, I'm trying to think if there's anything I really needed to talk about my geek cred this week or not. I did want to bring up at least one article before we're done, or one or two articles real quick. So we'll see, since we don't do enough news. Although we've actually kind of been news-ridden throughout. Ken,
That's true, actually. We have had a couple of things.
Okay, so my only thing geek cred that I was going to bring up real quick. 3D printing stuff I'd mentioned. Boom, boom, boom. I'm back in the state where all 3 of my 3D printers are working again. They're constantly up and down. It depends. I had gotten a few tips of them clogged. I had to change them out, clean them, had to replace one of my thermistors again, stuff like that. There's constantly work to be done there. If you're going to get into 3D printing, realize it is always a work in progress. Separately, I've been playing 2 games of note, or at least 1 game of note, one of shame. One of note is Call of Duty Black Ops 4 has just released last week, or this week. And I started playing it. Yeah, so I just started playing that. It's been fun. It's very much a throwback to original Call of Duty, any of the Black Ops games. It's nothing revolutionary. They did add a Battle Royale mode that when I played in beta was fun. I've yet to play it on the live server. Partially, though, it's because I have some angst with it in that I currently can't play the game, which is awesome for the game I just bought, because it crashes every time I load it. Awesome. And it's one of those few times where...
I'm sure patches.
I don't know. The challenge is the engines that Activision uses have always been problematic with my setup, either because I'm running too many audio devices, which seems to freak out their games, or I don't know what, but it's been locking up on load. It was working, and then I woke up the next day, tried to play, and it started locking constantly, so I don't know what the frick changed. I tried reinstalling it to a different drive.
System care.
I've been doing a lot of the basic checks on everything. I've reinstalled, I've repaired, I've changed some INI, all these things, and it has just been a nightmare. And it's something that I've yet to see other people post much about, but I'm in a unique situation because I run virtual audio cables, I've got multiple audio cards and stuff like that. And for me, in my experience, they've had an issue with audio devices. And it's not been a clean launch all the way around because they've had these challenges on console as well. Different ones, but they've had lockups on console. So it's not just, this is one of those kinks, I will admit, in the PC Master Race armor, is that because of all the different configurations that they have to build games to, there are chances that you will run into catastrophic failure that you likely will not receive in a console because they really only have to program for 2 hardware types, if you will, 2 or 3 hardware types when it comes to console. So it's a lot easier to work out any bugs. So that's been one of my challenges. I have the game, but I've been frustrated that I haven't been able to play it for the last 2 or 3 days with all of my group. When we started, though, there's some great shots, right? New games. Great shots of VT Dub doing what VT Dub does. We actually had one of the multiplayer games we jumped into where we had a full squad of Versus the World group all tagged. So
nice.
Paz, El Campo, Fork, myself, a couple other of the newer ones in there. And we had a team that we've played in Black Ops 2 and back through the days of Call of Duty who dodged us, who they got in, and it was ATF. You guys know who you are. ATF, and I want to say SWF or something like that, or some other group, that they were playing together as a full clan or a full group up, and we were all queued ready to go, and next thing you know, they all dropped. Because
that's really
VTW,
funny.
Because we are notorious in Black Ops, because we are that good. Now, there are groups that are better than us. We will not ever claim to be the best, but when we have our A crew on there, we wreck people. And so it was fun to see people they hadn't even played us 1 round. They just dodged. And we'd even have Paz and Campo on, who are our carries. So that was entertaining. And the other one that is my shame is I have been playing this game, Royal Revolt 2. That is essentially a app game for phones that came through the Windows Store, and so I have it on my computer. And I really shouldn't play it because it's just a time sink, essentially, but it's been one of those random it's a tower defense-ish game. So I've kind of played that a little bit, and that's what got me in the first place because I like tower defense games and hadn't played one for a while. So, yeah. But I have been playing that.
I'm okay with that.
I'm not.
I've become a major snob with mobile games. I will only play a mobile game now if it has no ads. I don't mind paying. I'll pay because I get the Google free credits anyway from doing my surveys all the time anyway. So I don't mind paying money for a game. So it has to have no ads and absolutely no microtransactions. I just don't want to see them at all. I don't want to even have them available. I don't have the option.
This one has them. This one has both, although the ads are by choice, but it gives you bonus if you watch a video. And I've yet to pay.
That's still too tempting. I end up paying myself.
I'll watch the videos I'll watch them. I'll turn them on and I'll go work on something else, like do something with a 3D printer while it's playing for 30 seconds.
Oh yeah, I've intentionally looking away, but it was spite.
Yeah. So that's the only time. But I understand that's why I'm not recommending the game. I'm just saying that's what I've been doing. How about yourself, Ken, as we're about to run up on the time for the show? Anything of note that you've wanted to do?
Let me talk about one article very quickly before I do a quick geek cred as well. I'll do it in reverse order. So first of all, Diablo 3 is reportedly getting crossplay.
Oh yeah, so ish. So it's since that, what is it? Sony, I think, was trying to finally maybe tease that they might. They did some beta testing, but there's no reveal as to whether the PlayStation's finally going to do stuff. But they have it's also available on the Switch coming out, the Diablo, as well as it's already available on Xbox. And so I believe that'll all be able to come together, which would be actually pretty brilliant. I am a big supporter of that.
Yeah, I think that's great, doing more crossplay type stuff. I mean, regardless of the business side of it, it lets people. We're happy. It makes people
Well,
happy.
you prefer to play Diablo on the console because you and Kitten Features can play there and have enjoyed it, where I've only had it on the PC, but to have us actually be able to play games together? What? Maybe not to buy the game in 4 different places to play with all your friends? What?
Yeah, it's nuts. So if the more we can play together, the better. That's a good thing.
Exactly.
All right, so that's my one article. I want to talk about. I watched a couple films this week. I actually introduced Kitten to a film that I have been deeply in love with for years, and she hadn't seen it yet, which is surprising because she's quite a film buff. She's seen most films, like just out there, like most films, right? But she hadn't seen Life of Pi, and it's one of my favorite films.
I have not seen that either.
Oh, dude, your TV begs for you to show this. That's
So
what I wanted to do is I wanted to do it on 4K.
Yep.
It's so worth it, man.
So it's one of those that I have seen pieces of it, and the place I saw it, so I know what you're talking about, was at CES. Last time I was there, they were showing it on all the 8K sets, and like all the stuff where they're trying to show off. That was a thing, and so yeah.
Yeah, well, Life of Pi not only is beautiful, it's actually beautifully touching as well. It's a really nice film. Lots of interesting points about religion, the meaning of life, what's important in life. I almost teared up at one point, not when people die, not when animals die. I tear up when the main character, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but the main character basically is almost despairing on life and pleads for God to kill him. I just found it so touching that every time I see that part, I tear up a little bit. I just think it's like past depression. It's where you don't want to give up, but you've got nothing left to hold on to. I just found it so beautiful. So if you ever want to watch Life of Pi, really, really well worth watching. Blu-ray, 4K, ideally. It's a good film without watching it, the visual impressiveness, but it's well worth it.
It also has that, yeah. So, and like you said, actually doing it on Blu-ray is probably the best way, so that you get the uncompressed full glory.
Oh yeah, it's well earned. It's well earned. So that's the main thing I wanted to mention. We watched a couple other things. We're watching the Purge TV series actually.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know they had a series, huh?
Yes, on Amazon. It's on Amazon.
Okay.
And it's pretty good. I was expecting it to be terrible, to be honest. But so far we're about 3 episodes in, and it's not as I don't know. I sort of expect it to be very generic.
Okay.
It looks like they're actually making quite a good effort with it. So check it out if you're interested in that, especially since it's called Halloween. It's a good thing to have. It's quite intensive parts actually. It's pretty intensive.
Nice.
So check that out.
Cool.
All right, that's everything for me.
All right, for me, the only things I was going to bring up, Geek-O-Scope wise, one, keep watching 20 for T plays. Our notes have it from Symphony of Night, but they have finished that series and they've been moved on to Mega Man, and you can catch that on our front page and post on that they are now playing through Mega Man, and that's good fun to watch them as they're entertaining to listen to as they play through. Beyond that, which ones I want to get to? I guess one of the ones, for as much as evil as there may be in the company and such, sometimes from Tesla and stuff, I do love me some Elon. He says some great things on occasion.
Dick recently, though.
Well, okay, no, he's always been a dick. But he's a visionary, and I think it's probably because a lot of it he doesn't know how to deal with people as a whole. But one of the things that I like that he said recently is he tweeted out actually how he likes anime. And the most recent one from Business Insider talks about Elon Musk says it's time to create a mecha or giant fighting anime robot. And so it's one of those that he basically is just talking about, he did a tweet talking about the movie Your Name and how wonderful that is. It's an anime out there that's very touching, and I definitely recommend everybody go watch. I think it's wonderful. But in chatting about things in general, he's like, man, we're doing all these things. Why haven't we made a giant mecha yet? You know, and the stuff that you've seen in the Robot Wars stuff that was advertised last year and such that came out is a far cry from what he's talking about with real, honest-to-God power suit mecha type things. And if there was a company that could pull it off, I think Tesla, or not just that, but any of Elon Musk's groupthink things, probably could. And so that just was something that made me kind of like, hee, I hope it happens, because I want mecha in the world.
Oh, sure, I don't disagree. I just don't trust him to do
so
it.
It's not him, it's the business model behind him that's a challenge. And so, because again, there's the practices of things of what's good and bad, but there's all so like Tesla's practices in Solar City is not always the best, but at the same time, because another story coming out is that Tesla reportedly has made its 100,000th Model 3, their lower end consumer electric car. And that is notable because it means they are at a quantity now where they're actually making a ton of these cars. And while they've had a pre-order of 455,000 Model 3s when they started delivering, they've had to get the manufacturing up so they can start sending a bunch of them. But for this one specifically, it's just the idea that they're actually pushing to make electric cars a real thing. It's something that people don't think is exotic and unattainable, but can actually be quite nice and isn't just the little Chevy Volt. And so I am excited for that.
I love electric car, but it's just so I don't see the point in getting a car that I can't drive from one part of the country to the other.
Well, and so there's a challenge with that. And here in the U.S., at least, Tesla has a network of their superchargers and things like that to make it much more viable. Because the Model 3 in the base form, I think, has a range of like 150 to 200 miles, somewhere in there. And at their extended range, it's like 250. And I think at the highest level, you can get one that's closer to 300. But that's I'm not entirely sure.
Fantastic, though.
It's not fantastic. It's basically a single fill up on most actual gas cars. So there's a challenge to that, but at least it's getting up higher and higher. So that's something I'm at least happy to say. Although at the same time, there's all the reports of how it's not the best thing. Anyhow, so those are my two things. The last story I had that I can't get into a whole bunch is that Facebook says that 14 million accounts have had a broad array of personal data stolen because everybody's having security issues now. Everybody's data is getting stolen.
I can't be bothered with Facebook, man. I'm tempted to get rid of mine.
Well, it's one of those, like I said, I use it for the more business purposes. I rarely post. I mostly consume, and I'm just aware of what other people are doing, and it's a way for me to remember people's birthdays and events. And so
I really like Facebook. I really enjoy it. I think it's such a useful tool, but I just also have not yet... I've been waiting for a reason like this to happen, because I'm very wary of the data that is on there can do a lot of harm.
Well, it can, and so I say own your social media. Make sure you know what you're posting and what's available for others.
It's not even that. I mean, the problem is, okay, OAuth, right? If you break into somebody's Facebook account, you can then make other accounts with their Facebook account, right?
Yes.
So imagine, right? These people decided to just screw over America in general and the West in general, and they made every single one of those 52 million accounts that had some data stolen.
Yep.
Use OAuth and sign up for Tinder.
Other things, right?
Imagine what would happen.
There's a ton of potential challenges, and that's actually one of the discussions because actually Leo Laporte does not have a Facebook, and one of the challenges he has when he got rid of it, he realized how many accounts he'd actually signed up with Facebook on because of the convenience. And I try heavily to sign up with an email versus Facebook, even though the Facebook is usually a convenient thing they like to do because it gives them access to more information. And so I personally tried to make the choice of making separate accounts so that I can always do it outside of Facebook or even older emails I have, trying to keep myself moving forward. But there's some real challenges to that. Yeah, it's, again, be aware of your media, take ownership of it, use it as a tool, don't let it use you. That's my advice for it. So I just want to mention that, yes, there was another hack. Things happen. There's a way that you can go out there and get links to see if you might have had your data stolen. But always, I say, don't keep anything sensitive online if you can avoid it, because nobody else needs that. So anyhow, so that's what I got. I will save the article about porn till next week. And
wait for that, guys.
So with that, though, it is time for us to go. So Ken, will you sign us off as we're running over time?
Yeah, we are. Okay, you've been listening to ShowX on VKNebrushians.com. Check us out all over the web. You can find us on twitter.com/VKWShowX, twitter.com/DocDead, and twitter.com/GoHex for the show, for Mr. Wade, and for myself. You can find us on patreon.com/ShowX. Feel free to donate a minimum of $1 per month, which means that you'd be giving 25 cents per show, which means you'd be giving 12.5 cents per hour, which means if it was split between the two of us, it would be 6.25 cents per hour each. So a little bit less than minimum wage. If it actually went to our wages, we don't even get to keep it. It goes to the show only.
Like getting Ken a new microphone.
Yeah. So any pennies you give to us goes straight to the show, and that's much appreciated. You can check us out on Facebook, search for ShowX there, and you can also find us, of course, on YouTube, Versus the World Video. Versus the World, is it? How does it go?
VTW Video.
VTW Video. Okay, check us out there. And everywhere, right? Just check us out everywhere. We're all over the place. Reddit as well, reddit.com/r// Show X.
Which I need a tutorial on because I've tried to add music to our music thing and I can't. I don't know how on Spotify.
Oh yeah, we got a fun little post thing there where you can add songs to our playlist of your favorite gaming.
How do you add them? I can see it. I have the playlist favorited, but I can't add anything to it.
That's strange. Okay, well, I'll see if we can...
I don't know. I may need a tutorial. Anyway, so thank you for that. After the show today, join us in the Show X voice chat, and we can talk and see what people are playing. I will be on for a short time. I have someone coming over that's supposed to be teaching me things, and so I will have to bounce out at some point. But I will jump in initially. I'll probably be in WoW first thing. I know that Serathis is in the chat saying wants to play some Killing Floor 2 as it is spoopy time and Halloween style. So if people have that, we may have people jump into that game together. But we'll see as a whole. So with that, though, you've been listening to Show X on VTWProduction.com. We love to hear from you, so please send in those emails at showx@VTWProduction.com. We'd like to hear from you, and we'd love to hear what you think of the show. So feel free to share us out to everybody. Catch us next week. Play with us after the show. We are out of here. Thank you, everybody. Catch you next week. Bye.
Goodbye. See you next zombie.